next week.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lindsay Potter, your host here with Scott Elwell, your other host. We are no longer co-hosts. We are the hosts of the show, and this is Building Greenwich. We are thrilled today to have a special guest on who brought us treats. He brought us the best dumplings that I've ever eaten in my entire life, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting next to me, North, but I'd like to introduce North, the owner of Nit Noi Provisions in Coscob. Welcome.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Good morning. Feel free. You comfortable? You good?
I'm actually very comfortable.
We're making him feel like he's at the dentist. Are you comfortable? Would you like some water?
Chair is comfortable.
Just sit back and we'll give all the pain out. But
Why don't you go ahead?
so yeah, I mean, North, I know you through your wife, who I sell real estate with, Jill. Shout out. But yeah, I mean, Nit Noi, this is all completely new to me, and I hear a lot of the back end stuff, and very anecdotal. But why don't we just dive in quickly? What's your elevator pitch? Who are you?
Yeah, so we're Nit Noi. We make bone broth, dumplings, and clean, healthy Thai food. We started the business really not knowing what we were going to do.
Okay.
But we had a great recipe.
Yeah.
We got a place to sell it. And so, yeah, so we've been in Greenwich since 2022.
Has it been already? Wow, 2 years.
Almost 2 years. March would be 2 years.
Well, so I know Nit Noi because I used to work in Norwalk. So you started, your first location was in Norwalk.
Yes.
And can you tell us where that is?
Yeah, so Norwalk is our production kitchen, is our ghost kitchen. We opened it back in 2017 to really support our business doing farmers markets. But the idea, too, always in my head was that if we built a ghost kitchen, which was not in fashion out here before, more so in New York, that if we failed, we could always rent this out.
Right.
We had this capability that we could manage a nice kitchen. People were looking for it because we were doing farmers market, and people were asking, where can I produce this stuff for 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week? And we're like, oh, this is a good backup. But the idea for Norwalk was that we could be a hidden gem. People would discover us in a warehouse, behind a loading dock, behind a trash can. And if we could sell noodle soups in July, we could sell noodle soups everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was the idea for Norwalk.
Okay, awesome.
Was there one recipe that launched this whole thing off? Like, how did you get started?
Yeah, so Rocky, this health coach on Monday who I met, he's like, how did you start it? What kind of environment were you in where you thought of this idea? And so Jill and I, after we got married, we were lucky enough that we could work remotely. So we drove across the country, got an Airbnb, but really wanted to go to Colorado just to ski because we were like, we could ski all winter. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so we ended up
nice.
in Telluride, which is, for a lot of people, it's an amazing place. And so we wanted to stay there. We wanted to say, hey, we could be.
I've never been, but I'd want to stay. I've seen pictures.
And I'm pretty sure the name came from To Hell You Ride.
Yes.
Like, no, I mean, seriously, somebody told me that.
Yep.
Not easy to get to.
Not easy to get to.
That's why it's special. That's why it's special.
And so we were walking with our dog and like, what kind of business or what kind of ideas can we bring here? And it was actually Jill's idea. Jill's like, on the mountain in the States, it's chilly, hot dogs, really heavy food when you're skiing. And my mom has a great broth Thai soup recipe. Let's make it here. So when we were out there, we started meeting with the local farmers who would bring farmers market up to Telluride from Ridgeway and other towns. And so we had source for bones. In Colorado, there's a lot of bones.
Yeah.
And so we were able to make really bad broth on the mountain because I really didn't know how to do it in high altitude, different ingredients.
It's very different.
But Jill's like, if we could do this and we could find a little place and we could sell noodle soups, like we could break even and live here. You're not going to make a lot of money, but you could break even and be here in this beautiful place. Fast forward a couple months, once you start running out of money, not really working, but living remotely back then, and this was 2016, I knew from doing some startup work, Lori Cochran, who runs the Westport Farmers Market.
Yeah.
So I knew there was a source for me to play around with this idea, which we didn't really know what it was yet. And we knew Ryan Frigidor, who started Fleischers. So we had a source for bones back home, a place to sell a product that we didn't know what it was yet. And so we just started tinkering on the way back. My mom actually went to Lori and gave her like these containers of broth because it had to be in paper, not plastic. It had to have
authentic. So was this just bone broth at the time?
Just bone broth.
Okay.
And so,
just sorry to interrupt, but what year was this? Because I know that
this is 2016.
Okay, is that before like the likes of Brodo in New York City took off? Which is a well-known.
Yeah, we
broth.
saw broth being more prominent on the West Coast, being Colorado.
Right.
When you went to Boulder, there's this King's Broth. You walked in, they were sampling broth. 2016. Like, what is this? Drinking broth. And so we're like, wow, it's really coming. Coming back to New York, Brodo is really the only one. We love Brodo.
I love Brodo, but
they're
was the only.
Yeah, they were the tip of the spear in the East Coast. I think they still are. So we were like, well, there's a market, right? There's a market that's coming. Can we kind of get ahead of this market with a product that is broth, which is every grandmother, you or I, could make a very simple product. How can we make that more elevated? How can we make that unique? And we have that Thai uniqueness that we believe is the key differentiation.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions.
For us complete morons, what is broth?
Yeah,
like, how do you make it? How do you sort? Like, just super basics.
Yeah, so I looked this up so many times where stock and broth, very similar concepts.
Yes.
Stock is just lighter, less time. Sometimes you throw in the scraps, the meat, bones, just everything, but less time. Bone broth is just bones. So you're just really cooking the bones for a very long time to get the collagen out, to really break down all the nutrients from your bones so that when you're drinking it, you're getting everything. Where stock is very light, it's really kind of you're adding liquid or you're adding a flavor enhancer to your soup, but bone broth should be thick and heavy, and it should give you that nutrients.
And when you're sourcing the bones and stock and all the materials to make the broth, is a lot of that leftover? I mean, is a lot of that from restaurants that they're not using? Or
in the beginning, yes. In the beginning, when we had the idea, it was if we were to be a part of community like the Westport Farmers Market, we want to start with the brand on the right foot. We want to be sustainable. We want to use less packaging or less plastic. And we want to be able to use the lowest common denominator food that is available. And bones are plentiful. You know, you're not going to, there's more bones than meat out there in terms of what people are demanding. So we, from a business point of view, we were looking at a product that had higher margins, but also utilizing scraps pretty much. So when we started, we were looking for bones, and people would happily give us bones for very cheap.
What types of bones? Sorry to cut in, but what different types of bones? I know that you have different bone broths.
Yes, so we do three main flavors.
Okay.
For bone broths, we do beef and chicken, and both of those are pasture raised.
Okay.
And so you have, if you're looking at quality of bones, you have kind of just a regular bones that you could buy in the store, which could not be organic, but just bones. Then you have your organic bone, and then you have your pasture raised bones. Yeah. Organic is certified by the government. Pasture raised is not. But pasture raised is a practice where they go in the pasture.
It's not certified.
And is the marrow removed? And like what do you have to do to treat the bone before you use it?
So a lot of more Western recipes would use a vinegar to pull out the nutrients. This is my mom's recipe. We just put it in the stock.
Thyme.
Yeah, thyme and certain ingredients. We use this pandan leaf, which is in our broth, that over time should pull some of the ingredients out. But if you're cooking for 24 hours, you take those bones out, and you could squeeze them, and they're malleable.
Yeah. The first time I had the ginger broth, which one is the one with
the defense broth?
The defense broth, I had COVID, and someone dropped it on my doorstep. My friend Lee was the nicest thing. She dropped the 4-pack of the broths, and I remember my entire family had COVID. This was back in 2020, and we ate that broth, and there was, you had no sense of smell or taste, and it was just felt good. It was warm. And then we froze the rest. And a few months later, I really was craving it. And I took it out and I ate it. And it was so spicy in the best way. But I was like, God, the first time I ate this, I couldn't taste it. Yeah. It is the most flavorful, truly. If you haven't had it, I'm going to get you some of the defense. But it's the most flavorful, delicious broth. And you can tell that you've put the time and love into it and that it's a family recipe. So I love that you're using your mom's recipe. That's so cool. So do you and your wife work together on the business now? No, because she's working in real estate with you.
Yeah, Jill's with me, and she's working in real. She better be working in real estate. I mean, but we are delivered a lot of Nit Noi, but I'll let North chime in.
I think the first year when we came back from Colorado, Jill likes to think she's like, the name I started the name Nit Noi, and I was like, no, like we started. Because you said it first doesn't mean, like we agreed.
How did that come to
So
play?
Nit Noi means a little bit in Thai.
Cool. I didn't know that.
So when we were out there, we realized people were not going to make a whole Thai dish. But if you use a little bit of our ingredients, like our broth or sauce or dumplings, you could elevate what you're making,
Absolutely.
add a new flavor to it. But also Nit Noi, the guy who started Orbitz was doing a little speech, and he was saying how they spent like $1 million to get Orbitz, and
the name,
and his investors were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "It's important." And so he was saying, for a name, it should be 1 or 2 syllables. Consonants should be in there. Nike, Google, and so for us, it's like Nit Noi, 2 syllables, 6 letters. Keep it simple. Hopefully, people get in their head. Some people say Nit Noir, which is fine.
And it's you own the domain?
We do.
Yeah, so I would assume that you went through the names just to make sure you owned it. Like
there was a Nit Noi in Texas, which they have like Nit Noi Investments, Nit Noi Ventures. You're like, oh my God, it took it all.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly every word in the dictionary has been taken.
Yeah.
Everything under 4 letters has been taken, and I'll hand it back. But that was important to us with Greenwich CT.
Yeah. Well, anytime I've started a business, I go online and make sure to buy all of the domains and any extraneous domains and any iteration of a domain. So you moved back from Telluride, and you and your wife,
We were in the city still.
Okay, you were in the city, but you chose Norwalk.
We chose Norwalk because I grew up in Norwalk.
Oh, cool.
Jill grew up in Norwalk. We knew the environment very well.
Okay.
Or at least we thought.
Right.
We grew up there. We know where people shop.
Yeah, we grew up here. That's why we're doing this.
And then for us to be a brand, we needed to have roots.
Right.
So for me, never actually shopping at a farmer's market before or being part of that community, I just knew that they would provide us with that support from the very beginning, and they would be very honest.
Yeah.
And they still are. If they don't like something, people will tell you right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in-person feedback is the best. The Westport Farmers Market, I know, is huge and very successful. Is it year-round?
It is year-round. It's every Thursday, 10 to 2.
Okay.
It's by the library in the summer, and then in the winter, it's in Gilberti's, which is the oldest greenhouse, the oldest farm in Westport. It's 200 years old.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. Okay, and if you so your sales, what roughly percentage is like farmers market, off-site, on-site, and take home?
Sure. So in the beginning, all farmers market, right? That was the idea.
Cool.
Jill and I are out there. They meet us. They know who we are.
But you started it. Like Jill really had nothing to do.
Jill
with
was there. Yeah, Jill was there. There was one, so we learned that we should not work at farmers markets together, as I think most couples learn throughout time. There was one day where I always tell our team, no drinking water. You could drink water before, and please drink your water afterwards, but during the market, we're busy. Like, there's no time. Jill would go to the bathroom. Jill would come back. And one day, she was sitting on the cooler. We just started.
I'm bringing this up because
we just started.
My wife and I, when we go on road trips, she has to go to the bathroom every half hour. And I look at her, and she's sitting there with a LaCroix. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
We stopped at the gas station in Greenwich on a road trip.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we just left. So she was sitting on a cooler. I'm like, are you okay? The next day, she found out she was pregnant.
Oh,
that's
give the lady some slack.
I felt bad. So, but again, the rule of the market is please don't drink water.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And congrats on the baby. When was that?
That was 2016, 17.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can't do math that quick.
Yeah.
No,
It was the end of our first season in the market where I was like, we might have to hire someone else.
Yeah. So you have an 8-year-old, is what you're trying to say? 7?
No, yeah, he's 6. He's 6.
Okay,
So
6.
she was pregnant.
They're a lot deeper than that. I'll let North chime in, but
But yes, so we worked together back then for a year, and then for the next 2 years, Jill would write our emails for us. She's a good writer. I'm a terrible writer.
Nice.
And so we try to split that off. But now, fast forwarding to 2024, which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
We still do the Westport Farmers Market, and we do markets. It's part of, as we talked about earlier, it's really kind of like my flow area. I've done so many markets where I know how to answer all these questions.
Right.
You know,
It's one of my I've been working with startups for many years, and I really truly believe that to build a brand, you need to have face-to-face contact with your consumers.
Right.
I mean, how do you know if they really like? You can tell if someone likes a dumpling when they take a bite of it in front of you.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, or take a sip of the broth. So you were at the Westport Farmers Market and you had the ghost kitchen. And for those that don't know that are listening, I know what a ghost kitchen is, but can you just explain what is a ghost kitchen?
A ghost kitchen is really just a kitchen for production.
Right.
You could use it for delivery. You could do it really for anything. There's usually no name in the front. We actually don't have a name in the front. We have no windows. And
just cooking.
Just cooking.
But you sell out of your ghost kitchen.
Yes, we did. So when we had the lease, David Adam, who owns the real estate up there, he's like, so North, you want to pay me commercial real estate prices and then have people come pick up soup? And I was like, yes. I was like, it's just going to be better for your building.
Yeah.
He's like, they're going to walk through that loading dock with the trash can in front of it. I'm like, I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the goal. And now there's another kitchen next to us, Stylish Spoon, who does the same thing. And Lobster Craft is upstairs. So like it's growing. And I think in the beginning, my first customer there was this old 70-year-old lady. She poked her head in and she says, what are you guys doing down here? And I was like, oh, we're making some soup. She's like, oh. She's like, huh. And I thought in my head, I was like, if your husband or whoever knew that you just kind of randomly walked down this hallway.
Past the garbage can.
Yeah. And then she came back. And so that was good.
Yeah.
That was a good moment for us.
Yes, you guys do. You have many repeat buyers. So now I want to get to, I keep looking at them and smelling them. They smell so good. But the dumplings. So you went from the broth and the soups, which I've pretty much had everything on your menu because I really, truly love everything that you serve. But when did you get into dumplings? And is this a family recipe?
Yes. So the dumplings, we realized broth is seasonal. We do great in the summer for farmers market because it's a different type of environment. But for the kitchen-wise, August, you don't see a lot of people walking through the loading dock. And we were, talking to my mom, let's do some dumplings. Like we do dumplings. When we grew up, we didn't make dumplings every day. My mom would probably do, 2 or 3 times a year and make a lot of dumplings and freeze them.
Yeah. And
so we would just have them and it would be a fun family activity. And so we started doing dumplings in 2019, something like that, 2020, really as a way to even the revenue flow for the summer. And so dumplings started taking off. And now it's broth, our noodle soup, dumplings, 1 and 2. So we go through probably 8,000 dumplings a week. We would love to do a lot more.
I mean, they handmade? They look and taste handmade.
Yes. So we bought this fancy machine from Japan. I called this guy up at 2 a.m. because I thought he was in Japan. He picked up and he spoke English. And I was like, this is it.
He's in New Jersey.
We're very close. And so he was like, yeah, come on by. I'll show you, bring a filling, and I'll show you how to do it. I was like, I'm in Connecticut. And he's like, I'm in LA. I was like, oh. And so he runs a ramen school. He produces this one-of-a-kind machine from Japan. He retrofits it for this market.
Cool.
We thought when we bought this machine a year ago or 8 months ago, it would just bang it out. You could just push a button. and one human being could just bang out
If
800.
something could be so easy.
'Cause it did say that in the brochure. You could get up to 800 dumplings. And so I'm working with this machine, and it's a struggle, and it's just pissing me off. And so I called him and was like, what happened? I was like, can you make 800? He's like, I can make, 10 in, 1 minute. And I was like, but if you add multiple minutes, and he's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And so every dumpling we make goes through this folding machine, which is really cool. It's tiny. It's smaller than this desk.
And so what does the machine do?
It folds it. It folds it really quickly. But we still need a human being to finish it.
Right.
So someone has to take it off the belt, finish it, place it on. So every dumpling that you see is touched by hand. All the filling, we make the filling from scratch, the pork the day before, the shrimp the day of. And we try to have very little inventory. So like even today, that's why I was a little late, dropped off dumplings for Greenwich because we try not to have anything in the kitchen at the end of the week.
Right.
Well, and today you brought us pork and shrimp. You want a little quick history on what this is?
Pork dumplings, there's a little cabbage in there. They're the only items on our menu that are not gluten-free, the dumplings. We keep it traditional. This is just how we ate it at home. And so a lot of things for Nit Noi, like our curries, it's just spicy. And we'll get notes on Uber or when people order on our website, less spicy.
Sorry, pal.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so part of the things is it's not like we don't want to tailor. We if you don't want certain things, we could always tailor to it. But certain items, it's just the way it is.
Right.
So the pork dumplings, it comes with a little soy chili sauce that my mom. So my mom's sauce is constantly changes. It is one of the things where she's like, "Why do you do that?" I'm like, because 2 months ago you told me to do that. And so now when she comes in the kitchen, we make her do a little signature.
I don't know if you want me to bring this up, but is your mom getting royalties for all of this?
No, she gets...
Sounds like your mom is the one that deserves all the credit.
She's very nice. She comes to the market and she wants to pay me for like a broth. And like yesterday she's like, I want curry but no rice and a broth. Here's my card. And I was like, I'm not going to take your card. She's like, take my card. And I was like, I'm not going to take your card. Whereas my stepdad,
I'm sure Jill is like, run the card, please, run the card.
So we now in the kitchen, when she comes in, just give us a little signature.
Yeah,
you agree to this, like we were staying with this, we're not changing. And so the sauce over time, making one little jar to now making big batches. Recipes don't change, but the quantities of certain ingredients do.
Right.
So every dumpling that we sell comes with a soy chili sauce, and the idea is that it's really simple. It's meant for really a snack, but if people are doing, a large order, some people eat a lot of dumplings. And
I have one of our neighbors brought, I think, like 20 or so over one night, and between he and my husband, they ate. I think I had one.
No.
They crushed the dumplings. They're just so good. And they'll have them for dinner all the time. So question for you is, I know that you have the different broths and the chicken soup, but if I go into order, you had mentioned the defense before, the one that I've had. How are they labeled? Like, I know defense, and then there are 2 or 3 others.
Yeah, we have a broth bar.
Okay.
That's our kind of broth bar concept where you could choose your kind of plain broths. We tend to push people to our restore broth, which is our plain, clean broth, but we add scallion, cilantro, pickle vinegar, fried garlic, a little Thai chili, just to elevate it a little bit more. But when we did that in the market, so everything we do, we bring to the market first, and then we bring it to the store.
Okay.
To see if giving people ideas. Hey, if you're buying just broth, but you know that there's Mike's Organic down the street, you could get a produce there, blanch it, put it together, and you have an awesome meal.
That's a great idea.
So especially at the farmer's market too, like, that guy has really good cilantro. Go and grab it, and you're going to make this. And then hopefully there's a connection where people are like, you could use a little bit of Nit Noi, and then I could elevate that to my chili or whatever. So there's always a 3 base broth, and then to kind of highlight how versatile the broth is, we have a revived broth, defense broth. If just a plain broth, is scallion, cilantro. Really trying to give people the idea that you could customize this, put it in a cup, drink it, and make it yours.
And all of it you have also frozen.
Yes.
And when you make it, does it matter if it's going to be frozen or not?
Yes.
Do you do anything differently?
Yeah. So the one thing that we do differently from a ramen store is that if you go to a ramen place and hopefully they're making, like, let's say Mecha, they make their own broth. Nice guys. They run it all the time on a higher boil. So you'll see the broth getting cloudier and thicker, and that's what they want. That's the style. And so for us, when we cook our broth, like today, they should be done. So we'll start a new batch today, run it for 24 hours, the chicken, the beef. The vegetable we only do for 8. You don't need to do that long. Then we cool the broth. I think that's my best contribution to the business, where I was like, how do we cool all this fucking broth? It's like, so when the nicest guy, there's a little deli in Ruane called 101. They sell ice cream and sandwiches.
Brendan's.
Jill grew up with Brendan. And so we approached Brendan after cooking in my mom's kitchen for the first 6 months. Don't tell Lori this. And my mom was like, "Where do you you can make a lot of broth. Where are you going to put that broth?"
Right.
So my mom's fridge was packed with broth. You know, the motor is going up. She's getting pissed. You know, like we didn't know how to cool all this hot liquid. And so when we reach out to Brendan, we're like, "Hey, Brendan, can we cook in your kitchen at night? You close at 8. We'll make broth. We're out. You know, it's just going to sit in your stove." And Brendan told Jill, "Was like, hey, take my health permit. Tell them you cook here. This is how everyone starts."
Yeah.
And so we
Really
took
is.
it. Yeah, we took his health permit. Still cooked my mom's for a little bit. Found this really nice couple of Wave Hill breads, which is still around here.
Yes, love Wave
Tim,
Hill.
Tim and Angela are like, "We have this great little kitchen no one uses in the front. It's got a stove and a fridge and a 3-bay sink. Do you want it for $20 an hour?" We're like,
Yes,
yeah.
please.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so we're there for a year and a half before we opened the other kitchen. And so when you make beer, I don't know if you guys make beer, you have to chill the wort. There's this copper wire, and basically all you do is you stick into your sink, run cold water, and the water goes through the copper wire and then transfer the energy out for our broth. So when we cook our broth, we could cool 120 quarts within 30 minutes in the winter, 40 minutes in the summer, and we chill our broth. And so with the beef, you could literally take the fat off with your hand because it's a chunk after you chill it. So it doesn't really matter. But during COVID, we realized most of our customers wanted frozen broth. They wanted to know, hey, if I heat this up, it's going to be clean. There's no preservatives. I can use it whenever I want. I can stick it in my freezer. And so no difference when we make the broth, but we do know people prefer frozen if they didn't know when they were going to use it.
And what was the most popular broth, especially like during COVID?
We could tell. So like, there's 2 types of customers we could tell. If you're going to a colonoscopy and you're going in 4 quarts of chicken broth, we kind of know. It's okay. We ask.
Hey, we all
know.
have to do it.
Like,
It's health.
Colonoscopy, it's fine. 4. Oral surgery, probably 2. 1 before, 1 afterwards. And then COVID is a lot, right? Like you start seeing.
I had
like,
so much of your broth in our freezer. We don't have a big freezer, and it was stocked.
Yeah, because it's like 7
But
broths.
I love that you've got like somebody walks in 4, 3, 2, 1. You already know what's happening to them. That you know
because they tell you too. They're like, "Oh, I need 2," and you're like, "Oral surgery."
Yeah.
Okay. But then it's clear broth, right? You want clear broth.
Right.
And then the Restore is the next one, which is a little bit more flavorful. It has, the crunch from the scallions. But yeah, a plain chicken broth, we do 20 chicken broth to 1 vegetable, 30 to 1 beef. People come in for beef in the beginning, but I think, I didn't grow up drinking beef broth in the morning. I grew up drinking broth with noodle soups, rice dishes, and that's my comfort breakfast and something that I just love growing up. So when we see people come in, they do beef broth, we know the next time it's probably going to be something different because it's a little lighter.
Right. And broth is also touted as a nice filler when you're trying to drop weight, be healthier, leading up to summer, is a nice substitute, thank you, for a meal. because of the nutrients in it.
Yes.
So it's very filling. And I know of friends that will have it they'll put mushrooms in it. They'll put scallions in it. They'll make it like a meal when they're craving something and don't want a full meal, or afternoon snack. That's not the dumplings. They'll just have the broth. But it really is, to our listeners, if you haven't been to Nit Noi yet, you must go. But it is great to keep in your freezer. Also for those nights where you just don't have ideas of what to cook. You could just put vegetables in with the broth and you're done. It's delicious soup.
And if you're going in for something, they come to you and they say, how much do I need? Like, I mean, can we do this in the inverse? Like, I've got a root canal, and you'll just, you'll diagnose me and tell me how much.
Not a doctor.
How much broth
I
need.
the guys tell them we're not doctors, but I think you might need 2 or 3. And then the other kind of like deeper level, it's like, okay, like I'll give you 1 fresh and 2 frozen, because I know that you're going to use this, next. If your surgery is tomorrow, and then you could save the other one for later because you might not get there.
Well, if you work with the doctors, maybe they can also, CVS is right across from you, so I can go get my meds, and then walk over, and it's a part of the package deal.
Yeah, actually, when Jill was giving birth to her first son, Bear, we went down to the Stanford Hospital cafeteria, and I'm like, I know they sell broth here, and I see it, and I'm like, oh, they have broth.
Ooh.
And I was like, I know it's terrible, and I was like, let me wait to see the manager. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this right now. I should go back upstairs because this could wait. But I was like, duly noted. They have broth, but probably terrible. How do we get it?
Oh, I was going to say, an opportunity to be selling your broth there. So do you sell at any other places? So you do the Westport Farmers Market. Do you do the Greenwich Farmers Market in the summer?
We did Old Greenwich.
Old Greenwich is also a great farmers market.
Before we opened the Costco store to build a fan base, and also Mike's Organic. The reason why we chose Costco was Rob from Salt Flour said, we all talk, which is a great thing about, the great thing about the Connecticut food industry is that we all know each other.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing. I think if you were in New York, people would say good luck.
Right.
People in Connecticut said, how can I help?
Yeah. Again, with Building Greenwich, we feel such a sense of community here, and we want for everyone to feel that way, because even though we're such a big town, there is such a sense of deep community, people wanting to help each other.
Right.
I've known Rob 20 some odd years. When they just opened down the street, it was like, yes, because as much as I love Darien, I don't love driving to get my bread up there.
Right.
And I get a lot of the back end, conversation through Jill, but I mean, you pretty much know everybody in the Costco area that you're near. Like it sounds like.
And I think everyone also knows, like it goes both ways. Sidestep like Wild Acres. I know to go through a lot of chicken. We were short on chicken. Ben, can I get a case?
Right.
You got it. And so it's kind of...
And you've got Green and Tonic right next door. Between Wild Acre, Nit Noi, and Green and Tonic, it's like the health corner of Costco.
Yeah.
And then the bread right across the street.
Yeah, I was going to say right across the street, we've got cheese and everything that I'm eating. That's not exactly...
And so, so... The Old Greenwich Market, yes. So we started doing that. And now the goal of so back to Rob. Rob was like, oh... You got to check out this little town called Costco. I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, Costco, a town that to me, working in Greenwich before, was just a train stop impeding my forward north. Going north. It's just like, Costco, what is this town? Why do they need a train station? And so so I spoke to Rob, and then Mike from Hey Roos was thinking of opening a place. And then Mike's Organic was looking at a place. And the guy who really got me was Pastificio. He's like, North, Costco. Very nice place.
By the way, we are in Costco currently.
So,
and I live in Costco, and they do need a train station for the record. My wife takes it. Like, come on.
So he, Pastificio opened a year and a half before us. We looked at the space next to him, and we finally found the space next to Fairfield Pizza. And then I spoke to Rob. I'm like, hey, Rob, where are you moving to? He's like, I'm not doing Costco. He's like, maybe later. I was like, but you said that, it'd be nice to have bread, broth, cheese, like a specialty area, And he's like, I'm not going to. I was like, what happened? And then Mike's Organic is like, yeah, we're thinking about it. I was like, I thought everyone was going to do this. So that's why And
That's
now,
what I
like,
did.
everyone's here. Now, Rob is here next in Fjords. Mike's is here.
I love Saturday mornings in Costco. Well, I'll go to get bread at Rob's place, and you've got cheese right next door. You've also got the fish market that Rob shares the space with. Pastificio, another great place to just get food for the week. I always have that in the freezer too because I do have kids, and that makes it easy for weeknight meals. So you moved here. And then you still have the kitchen in Norwalk, but do you sell to other places outside of online, which we'll get to at the end, where people can purchase online?
Sure. So we, when our ghost kitchen, we signed a 5-year lease, something very friendly. We could get out, in and out. This is not a long-term thing. And it worked out. And one of the things that we really, when I started the business, we really wanted to focus on wholesale. But we wanted to build a brand before we could do that. We wanted to build a brand so that when we approach people, a good brand, people would already know us. They could kind of recognize and they knew that there was quality into it. And so Greenwich was something we looked in 2000. We were going to open where, I forgot the name of the place. On Mason Street, there's a bakery there now. Ralph's is there.
Ralph's,
We were looking in that space, and we're like, we probably could do this run. We could do it. We do farmers market. We're good. We can do it. And then COVID happened, which was great for us because then we really focused on being a ghost kitchen, and business-wise, we had a good COVID because people were ordering broth. We started just figuring out the business and doing exactly what we wanted to be, a ghost kitchen, and have very low overhead.
And it was very much word of mouth back
Word of
then.
mouth, right.
I mean,
Word of
I
mouth.
know every friend of mine that, again, delivered to my door, kind friends.
Yeah, nice people.
And then it was like, oh, Nit Noi, what's Nit Noi? Oh, I need to try it. And
Yep.
it was just like wildfire.
And then my stepdad was like, I think you need to open a store. I was like, I don't want to open a store. I don't know how to open a store. Like, people come in the ghost kitchen, they are happy to be there. They come in because they want that experience. A store is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But in order to build the brand, and that was also the goal, we needed to have a store, a place where people could really interact with us on a day-to-day basis without having to order 2 days ahead.
Yeah.
And so the store has been there for a year to 2 years now. This year, we're really focusing on going back to wholesale, being in the Norwalk, figuring out how to produce more dumplings at still high quality, more broth. And so the Village Market carries our broth, which is in Wilton, in New Canaan's Walter Stewart's, Double L in Westport. And then we now, this year, started getting our dumplings into restaurants. Getting our dumplings as an appetizer option in restaurants so that restaurants groups don't have to do this, but still could offer their customers a high-quality restaurant-grade product, which we know works.
Right.
And can you have those dumplings branded?
Some restaurants, yes. Some restaurants, no. As my good friend Mike Talby said, you got to get paid. It don't matter.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
and I'm thinking of oysters that we all know of
Exactly.
that have been branded, and
Right.
it's
Cobb's Island.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Mike
so-
from the Welk in Westport? That friend? Oh, no, that's Bill. Sorry.
Bill,
Type.
yeah. He promotes our dumplings. So we do Kawani. Kawani has our shrimp dumplings.
Okay.
We
That's
do-
his newest place, right?
Yeah, they actually open in Denver too. So they have.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I mean, should we have our friends and listeners show up at restaurants
Yes.
asking for Nit Noi
Yes,
dumplings?
you should ask.
We can do
dumplings.
this.
Yes.
I mean, we can absolutely.
Kawani,
Tell me which restaurants.
Roy and Seafood, if you're there. Where are the dumplings? Can we get some dumplings?
Heard you have the best dumplings.
Yes. So these.
I only eat Nit Noi dumplings. So, I mean, if you don't have them, I'm going to have to go somewhere else.
But we do realize some restaurants don't. They want us, and which is fine to us.
Yeah.
So both ways. And so the restaurant has been our model to say, hey, like, there are these case studies of high producing restaurants. This is how much they order per week.
Right.
This is how much we could make if we had 20. If we could get into Baldor's or Cisco and be a provider of really high quality Thai products.
Right.
And so this is kind of the mission this year to get 20 restaurants, built that case study,
Scaling.
scalable products, right? Broth
Right.
and dumplings, and then it still have the touch and feel of the store, and myself doing farmers markets, which is just kind of really just building that from the ground up. And I always like to, I don't think my guys listen to what I say when I say about this, but I'm like, we're like a small little tree. Like we're there. People could see us, but we need to grow and be a big force.
I love that.
So
again, just boots on the ground. It really does take being there and connecting with people, because that's what builds a brand.
Right.
You connect with 100 people at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, expect that those 100 people will at least talk to 5 people each. That's, so that it multiplies. And then those 5 people talk to, it's word of mouth is much more valuable than people may think it is.
Yep.
So what's next for you? You're scaling this year. Greenwich is rocking and rolling. Coscob.
Sorry. Yeah,
is rocking and rolling.
Coscob.
And well, I mean, it is Greenwich, but it is Coscob, a community in the town of Greenwich.
Well, as every Greenwich resident knows, we pick and choose where we're from, depending on where we are. And so you can't say if you're from Coscob if you don't live here, but it's, it is part of Greenwich.
So I think this year, store-wise, we'd love to do more classes.
I was going to ask you, do you do classes?
We do, and the great thing is that, when we post classes online, we do a dumpling 101 class. Yes. It's a fun class. You're going to learn. Most people don't. They're having fun, and that's the goal for that class. We do a curry making 202. Not geared towards fun, but more learning, because you're going to be pounding, you're making curry paste.
But can you do 202 without a 101?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
But I think people start with 101. I think that was Jill's idea, too, to kind of have like a course.
Graduated, yeah.
A fun course. So the great thing is, we put a class up. A group of people would say, hey, can I just bring 8 to 10 people and I'll just do the class? Great. So we just take the class down. And so we probably do 2 to 3 classes a month.
Oh, wow.
They're fun. People usually just DM us, hey, can I put a group together Wednesday, Saturdays? That's when we do classes. In Norwalk, we could do it anytime because it's a big open kitchen. I like to do it in Norwalk because it's like, oh, look at this huge wok. Yeah. Would you like to make your dinner while we cooked? So it's very interactive. We show people how to use equipment that they normally won't do.
Right.
So from that point for Greenwich, we, having, a 10 to 7 business 6 days a week, it's like every other business. But we wanted to have something where we could break it up and be like, hey, we're going to try to teach you too and open our books up to you to show you, as my mom hates it, like, why are you sharing the dumpling recipe? We show them because they're going to ask ingredients, and when we do classes, they're not going to make this.
No.
But
most likely.
And
right.
And I think they'll really like it.
So do you do the classes at night?
We do classes at night. So
and are they scheduled, or can I, if I have a birthday party that I want to bring in there?
Yeah, so most people just email us for classes, and then we kind of just say, hey, we close the kitchen a little early on Wednesday for that.
Right.
Do a 6:30 to, it's a BYOB.
Okay.
It's always 2 hours on the paper, 3 hours in real life.
Right, because of that B part.
And then the other group of classes that we were trying to do is for younger kids, more drop-ins, quicker, come in, fold some dumplings, make dumplings, take some home. And that hopefully would be more on the weekends where, a teenager is not going to spend 2 hours with North. They're going to do maybe 30 to 4 minutes.
Well, you could coordinate with Greenwich Dance Studio.
Yes, that's true.
And do like the parents while they're bored with the kids across the street.
I like that idea.
We can hook that up with Kate.
And then on the wholesale front is really trying to get accounts. And I think I was talking to my friend who has a marijuana business in Texas, and it's like, I think I'm pretty good at opening accounts. I'm not very good at holding on to accounts. So learning like my shortcomings in the wholesale world, where we're going to drop up some dumplings later today to a different restaurant. I like doing that, but then calling them up and being, hey, do you need it's not my bread and butter. So how do you build that sales team? How do you reward the sales team, which I still don't know. And
dumplings.
Yeah.
Do dumplings travel well? Like, would you ever do mailed?
Yes. This question is something where there are strong brands at the farmer's market, people with really big ambitions, scalable ambitions. And one of the hardest things to do is shipping. Mm-hmm. Shipping frozen items. Dumplings have to be frozen. Broth have to be frozen. Cakes, and it's certain things. You just lose money shipping. So
It's a lot of packaging.
a lot of packaging. It's actually the dry ice.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out as a group where we could buy dry ice, store dry ice, and then portion it off.
Right.
So that we have some cushion on terms of, just shipping. But we have people ask us all the time. Sometimes we do it for people if it's close. Like, Pennsylvania, I could get it to you overnight.
Right.
Chicago.
Like, Gold Belly that,
Gold Belly,
that
yep.
obviously ships food. If you don't know Gold Belly, it ships food nationwide. I mean, we just received, my husband, one of his students sent a Shake Shack package at Christmas time, which was such a great gift. We got home, we had no idea what to feed the kids, and we have this box on the doorstep from Shake Shack. But the dry ice, it was significant how much ice was in that box. But when we opened it was like, oh my gosh, we get to make Shake Shack burgers at home.
Yeah,
Cool.
game changer dry ice.
Well, I was gonna say it's worth it for those burgers at the right time.
But
Okay, cool. So we'll wrap up here. We're not going to keep you all day, and also we need to eat these dumplings. But if you can just tell our listeners where they can find you, the address in Coscob, where to find you online, and any other info that you want to share.
Sure. So
Please.
if you are in the Norwalk area, we are at 95 Water Street next to Sono Bakery. You'll see this huge trash can and an elephant. Follow the elephant.
That's where I used to work on Water Street. That's why I know you.
And then we are in Coscob at 3 Strickland, next to Fairfield Pizza, and the most productive audio store the world's ever seen.
Truly.
Audio and Green and Tonic. So Norwalk is a little harder to get to, which is part of it. We're open Tuesdays through Fridays, 11 to 5. Sometimes we close early on Fridays for no reason. We just do.
Hey, it's your business.
And then in Coscob, we're open Mondays through Saturdays, 10 to 7:30. And the thing that's coming up for the summer for 2 year is we will be doing some Thai iced teas and clean power smoothies. So it's just something different in the mornings. So we're looking at probably opening a little earlier, so you could get some of these offerings earlier, but the main menu will still be
Amazing.
Lunchtime.
And for those of you in Greenwich that don't follow addresses, you're right across from the CVS in Coscob. You're right next to Greenwich Dance Studio. On the post road by the old Starbucks. And so just as you're driving around, you're right there.
Yes.
Awesome. I mean, thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been so great to have you here. I can't wait to share this episode. I can't wait to eat these dumplings. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. And we will see you on the next episode of Building Greenwich.
Thank you.
Thanks.